The crystal spires of Valthek Prime had never been threatened in 3,000 years of galactic dominance. The homeworld of the Empire was a testament to their power. Cities of living crystal that grew like forests from the planet's surface, energy fields that turned the sky into a canvas of impossible colors, and orbital defenses that could destroy entire fleets. Yet as Admiral Hayuk stood in the High Command chamber, watching the tactical displays show approaching enemy forces, he knew that all of that ancient power might not be enough. President Jiwan of the Galactic Liberation Alliance stood at the helm of a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships flew alongside vessels from 47 different species, all united under the banner of freedom that humanity had somehow managed to spread across half the galaxy. "Status report," demanded High Admiral Sora, her purple crystal form blazing with desperate energy. "The Liberation Fleet has broken through our outer defenses," reported Intelligence Coordinator Jamin. "They are approaching the inner system with combined forces exceeding 3,000 ships." 3,000? War Coordinator Seungho's red crystal armor pulsed with fury. How did primitives assemble such a massive force? "They are no longer primitives," Hayuk said quietly. "They are teachers. Every species they liberate becomes more capable of fighting us. Every victory spreads their tactical innovations further." On the main display, the approaching fleet moved in formations that seemed organic rather than military. Human command ships coordinated with alien vessels in patterns that resembled a living organism, more than a traditional battle fleet. "Admiral Hayuk," Sora said, "you will lead our defense fleet and destroy these rebels." "High Admiral," Hayuk replied, "I have been fighting these humans for 2 years. They do not fight to destroy, they fight to liberate. There is a difference." "Explain." "When we conquer a world, we break it and remake it in our image. When humans liberate a world, they help it become something better than it was before. That is why former slaves fight so desperately for them. Because humanity offers hope, not just victory." The tactical display updated as the Liberation Fleet entered the inner system. Instead of heading directly for Valthek Prime, they split into smaller groups that moved toward the orbital shipyards, the energy extraction facilities, and the slave processing stations. "They're not attacking the planet," Jamin observed with surprise. "They're targeting our infrastructure." "Of course they are," Yuk said. "Humans don't fight to destroy civilizations. They fight to change them." Admiral Unji's voice came through on all communication frequencies, broadcast in dozens of languages to every being in the Valtek system. "Citizens of the Valtek Empire," she said, "we have not come to destroy your world or your people. We have come to offer you the same choice that the Empire has never given to others. The choice to live free." High Admiral Sora's crystal form flared with indignation. "How dare they speak of choice? We brought order to the galaxy." "We brought tyranny," Yuk said, the word surprising even himself. "For 3 millennia, we have conquered and enslaved, because we believed it was our right. These humans have shown us a different way. Admiral Hayuk, you will lead the defense fleet immediately." "No, High Admiral, I will not." The command chamber fell silent. In the 3,000-year history of the Empire, no Valthek officer had ever refused a direct order from the High Command. "You refuse to defend our homeworld?" Sora asked, her voice like breaking crystal. "I refuse to perpetuate a war that serves no purpose except to maintain our dominance over species that deserve freedom," Yuk replied. "These humans have taught me something I had forgotten, that strength without justice is merely bullying." On the tactical display, human forces were systematically dismantling the Empire's infrastructure while avoiding civilian targets. They moved with precision and purpose, clearly following plans that had been years in the making. Commander Jiho led the assault on the orbital shipyards, using the same musical weapon tactics that had proven so effective against Valthek Crystal, harmonics. The shipyard's defenses, designed to repel energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, had no protection against the chaotic beauty of human art. General Soyon coordinated the multi-species assault on the slave processing facilities. Narian waterships carried liberated captives to safety, while Vorthak energy shapers disabled the containment systems. Zephyrian engineers rebuilt the facilities to serve their original inhabitants rather than their captors. Dr. Ura's scientific teams moved through the Empire's research stations, not to destroy knowledge but to free it. Data that had been locked away for millennia was transmitted across the galaxy, shared with every species that had been denied the right to learn and grow. "This is magnificent," Hayek said, watching the coordinated liberation effort unfold. "Look how they work together. 47 species, each contributing their unique abilities to a common cause." "It is chaos," Sora declared. "Order must be restored." "High Admiral," Hyuk said, turning to face the leader of his people. "What if we are wrong? What if order without freedom is not order at all, but stagnation?" The question hung in the crystal air of the command chamber like a forbidden thought, given voice. President Jiwan's image appeared on the main communication screen. She stood on the bridge of the flagship New Harmony, surrounded by beings from dozens of worlds. Behind her, the blue-green curve of Valthek Prime filled the viewports. "Hi, Admiral Sora," President Jiwan said. "I offer you the same choice we have offered every world we have liberated. Surrender peacefully, and your people will be welcomed into the Galactic Liberation Alliance as equals. Continue to resist, and we will continue to dismantle your empire until only your homeworld remains. We do not negotiate with rebels and primitives," Sora declared. "Hi, Admiral," President Jiwan replied calmly. "Look around you. Your empire is gone. Your fleets are defeated. Your slaves are free. You can choose to be part of what comes next, or you can cling to what was." On the tactical display, the Liberation Fleet took positions around Valthek Prime. But instead of weapons, they deployed something unprecedented: communication arrays broadcasting messages of hope and freedom to every Valthek citizen on the planet below. For the first time in 3,000 years, the people of Valthek Prime heard voices other than their own leaders. They heard former slaves describing their new lives of freedom. They heard stories of cooperation between species that had been enemies. They heard about worlds where beings chose their own destinies. "The people are listening," Jamin reported with amazement. Crystal resonance patterns indicate widespread curiosity and questioning. "Impossible," Sora said. "The Valthek people are loyal to the Empire." "The Valthek people have never been given a choice," Hyuk observed, "just like the species we conquered." Admiral Hyuk made a decision that would echo through galactic history. He activated his personal communicator and opened a channel to the EAO Liberation Fleet. "President Jiwan, this is Admiral Hyuk of the Valthek Empire. I formally surrender my forces and request permission to discuss terms for the peaceful transition of Valthek Prime to Alliance membership." The command chamber erupted in shocked crystal chiming as the other officers processed this unprecedented action. "Admiral Hyuk," President Jiwan replied, "your request is accepted. But first, let me ask you a question. What changed your mind?" Hyuk looked around the crystal chamber where he had served for 800 years, then back at the screen showing the human leader who had transformed the galaxy. "You taught me that evolution doesn't stop," he said. "For 3 millennia we believed we had reached the pinnacle of civilization. We were wrong. You showed us that there is always something better to become." The surrender of Valthek Prime marked the end of the longest-running empire in galactic history. But more importantly, it marked the beginning of something new. The Galactic Liberation Alliance established a confederation based on principles that humanity had somehow developed in their brief time among the stars: cooperation over domination, diversity over uniformity, and the belief that every sentient being deserved the right to choose their own path. Admiral Hyuk became one of the Alliance's most effective coordinators, using his knowledge of former imperial territories to help rebuild worlds that had been oppressed for millennia. His crystal form gradually changed color as he adapted to his new role, shifting from the cold blue of Valthek military service to the warm gold of someone who served life, rather than death. President Jiwan established the Alliance capital on a neutral world where representatives from every member species could meet as equals. The old imperial practice of forced unity was replaced by voluntary cooperation that proved far more effective than tyranny had ever been. Dr. Minho, who had first detected the Valthek fleet approaching Earth, became the Alliance's chief xenobiologist. His research focused not on how to defeat alien species, but on how to help them thrive in freedom. Commander Yunji retired from military service to become the Alliance's first ambassador of species integration, helping newly liberated worlds adapt to self-governance while preserving their unique cultures. The galaxy that had once trembled under Valthek rule now grew and flourished under the protection of beings who had learned that strength shared was greater than strength hoarded. 6 months had passed since the first Valthek ship entered Earth's solar system. What had begun as a simple conquest had become something unprecedented in the 3,000-year history of the Valthek Empire, a war they could not easily win. Admiral Hyuk stood in the crystal gardens of the occupied research station orbiting Jupiter, studying reports that should have been impossible. Human forces had not only survived the orbital bombardment of Earth, they had begun winning battles. Small victories, perhaps, but victories nonetheless. "The latest intelligence reports, Admiral," said Navigator Sue, her emerald form dimmed with exhaustion. The constant human attacks had disrupted Valthek's sleep cycles and meditation periods for months. Yuk reviewed the data with growing concern. Human ships now moved in formations that defied prediction. Their weapons, while still primitive, had been modified to exploit every weakness the humans had discovered in Valthek technology. Most troubling of all, they had begun liberating other species. "How many systems have fallen to human-led rebellions?" he asked. 17 confirmed, Admiral. The humans seem to be sharing their tactical innovations with every species they encounter. Former slaves are now fighting alongside human forces with remarkable effectiveness. Hyuk touched his crystal console and brought up a holographic display showing the affected systems. Red markers indicated worlds where Valthek control had been challenged or lost entirely. The pattern was spreading like a virus through the outer rim of the Empire. "Show me the latest engagement reports," he ordered. The first report came from the Kepler system, where Commander Jiho had led a combined human-alien force against a Valthek garrison. The attack had begun not with weapons, but with something the Valthek had never encountered in warfare: music. Human ships had broadcast Earth compositions across all frequencies as they approached the Valthek station. The music was chaotic, emotional, and completely unlike the crystalline harmonies that Valthek consciousness depended on. The resulting discord had disrupted the garrison's coordination long enough for the attacking forces to penetrate their defenses. "They use music as a weapon?" Hyuk asked. "Yes, Admiral. Apparently, human emotional expressions create frequencies that interfere with our crystal matrix harmonics. They have weaponized their art." The second report was even more disturbing. Dr. Yura's xenobiology team had analyzed captured Valthek technology and discovered something that no conquered species had ever noticed. The Empire's reproduction cycles required specific stellar radiation patterns. Using this knowledge, human forces had identified and begun targeting Valthek nursery worlds. "They found our breeding colonies?" Hyuk's crystal form pulsed with alarm. "How?" "By mapping our expansion patterns over 3 millennia and identifying systems that serve no strategic purpose, but which we defend heavily. Their analytical capabilities continue to exceed our projections." But the most troubling report came from the Centauri system, where General Soyun had accomplished something that challenged the very foundation of Valthek understanding. She had convinced 3 different alien species to work together against their common oppressor. The Nereans were aquatic beings who had been enslaved for 2,000 years. The Vorthak were gas dwellers who had served as living energy sources for 15 centuries. The Zephyrians were silicon-based life forms who had been used as construction workers for millennia. These species had nothing in common except their hatred of the Valthek Empire. Under human leadership, they had learned to fight as a unified force. Nerean ships provided mobility, Vorthak energy manipulation powered enhanced weapons, and Zephyrian engineering created fortifications that could withstand Valthek bombardment. "This is impossible," Hyuk said, studying the tactical recordings. "These species have been enemies for centuries. The Nereans and Vorthak have fought each other almost as long as they've been enslaved to us." "The humans seem to possess an unusual talent for diplomacy," Sue observed. "They convince former enemies to become allies against us." Hyuk activated another display. this one showing strategic analyses that human forces had shared with their alien allies. The documents were sophisticated beyond anything the Empire had seen from conquered species. They contained detailed studies of Vaultec psychology, technology, and military doctrine. More importantly, they contained something that no Vaultec strategic document had ever needed: backup plans for failure. They planned for defeat, Hyuk realized. Every human strategy includes contingencies for what to do if the primary plan fails. Is that significant, Admiral? Sue, the Vaultec Empire has not experienced significant military defeat in 3 millennia. Our strategic doctrines contain no provisions for failure because we have never needed them. These humans plan for failure because they expect it, and that expectation makes them more adaptable than us. The communication panel chimed with an incoming priority transmission from the High Command. High Admiral Sora's purple crystal form materialized in the garden, her inner light pulsing with barely controlled fury. Admiral Hyuk, explain to me how a primitive species with chemical rockets and nuclear weapons has managed to liberate 17 systems from Vaultec control. Hi, Admiral. The humans have proven to be unlike any species we have previously encountered. Their adaptability and strategic innovation exceed our initial assessments. Adaptability? Sora's light flared brighter. They are primitives. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. Yes, High Admiral, but they compensate for technological inferiority with tactical superiority. They learn from every engagement and share that knowledge with remarkable efficiency. Then why have you not simply overwhelmed them with superior numbers? Hyuk paused before answering. Because, High Admiral, overwhelming them with numbers has proven counterproductive. Each large force we send provides them with more opportunities to test new tactics. They seem to become more dangerous the more pressure we apply. The holographic image of Sora flickered with disbelief. Are you telling me that the mighty Vaultec Empire is being defeated by a species that learned to fly less than 2 centuries ago? Not defeated, High Admiral. Challenged. And that challenge is forcing us to confront an uncomfortable truth. We have become predictable through success. The humans are unpredictable through necessity. This is unacceptable. I am sending the 3rd Fleet to assist you. These humans will be eliminated within the month. High Admiral, with respect, sending more ships will not solve the fundamental problem. The humans don't fight to win individual battles. They fight to learn how we think and operate. Every ship we send teaches them more about our capabilities and limitations. Then what do you suggest? Hyuk looked out at the gas giant Jupiter, where human mining operations continued despite the Vaultec occupation. The humans had adapted to working under alien rule while secretly supporting the resistance. Even their civilians had become part of the war effort. I suggest we consider the possibility that conventional conquest may not be possible with this species, he said carefully. Impossible. The Vaultec Empire does not negotiate with primitives. High Admiral, these primitives have created the first multi-species alliance in galactic history. They have developed weapons that can disrupt our crystal matrices using sound frequencies. They have identified and targeted our breeding colonies. They have turned our own former slaves into effective military allies. At what point do we acknowledge that they are no longer primitive? Sora's form pulsed with dangerous energy. Admiral Hyuk, you will eliminate the human resistance within 30 days, or you will be replaced by someone who can. The transmission ended, leaving Hyuk alone in the Crystal Garden. For 800 years he had carried out the Empire's will without question. He had destroyed civilizations, enslaved populations, and converted entire worlds into resource extraction facilities. But these humans had shown him something he had forgotten existed: the possibility of change. Navigator Sue, he called. Yes, Admiral? Begin preparations for a strategic withdrawal from the Sol system. Sir, the High Command has ordered us to intensify our attacks. The High Command does not understand what we are fighting, Hyuk replied. These humans are not just another species to be conquered. They are evolution in action, the universe adapting to challenge our dominance. Admiral, what are you saying? Hyuk turned to face his longtime subordinate. I am saying that for the first time in 800 years I am not certain we will win this war. and that uncertainty terrifies me more than any weapon the humans have built. Outside the Crystal Garden, human ships moved through the asteroid, belt in formations that seemed to dance rather than march. They were beautiful and deadly, and completely unlike anything the Valthek had faced before. The galaxy was changing, and Admiral Hyuk was beginning to understand that the Valthek Empire might not survive that change unchanged. The Valthek High Command met in the crystal spires of their capital world, where beings of pure light and crystalline perfection had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. High Admiral Sora, her body formed from purple crystal that pulsed with inner fire, reviewed Admiral Hyuk's report with growing alarm. "These humans have developed 17 separate strategies for defeating us?" she asked, her voice like breaking glass. "In 72 hours? "Yes, High Admiral," responded Intelligence Coordinator Jamin, his emerald form flickering with transmitted data. "The strategic analysis they provided is remarkably sophisticated. They have identified weaknesses in our formations, tactical patterns, and even our crystal matrices. Then they must be eliminated immediately," declared War Coordinator Seongho, his red crystal armor blazing with battle light. "Any species capable of such analysis poses a threat to the Empire." High Admiral Sora studied the holographic display showing the human solar system, such a small, insignificant collection of worlds. Yet from this tiny corner of space had come the first real challenge to Valthek dominance in living memory. "Admiral Hyuk requests permission to offer the humans a place in the Empire," Jamin reported. "He believes their strategic abilities could be valuable to us." "Absolutely not," Seongho declared. "A species that can conceive of defeating us must not be allowed to live. Order the immediate extermination of their homeworld." "High Admiral," Jamin said carefully, "Admiral Hyuk has also reported that the humans achieved global unity without external pressure. This is unprecedented. Perhaps we should study them further before deciding their fate." Sora's purple crystal body pulsed brighter. "The decision is made. If these humans can think of ways to defeat us, they will eventually develop the technology to try. We cannot allow that risk. Order Admiral Hyuk to proceed with immediate conquest." The transmission reached Admiral Hyuk as he stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, still studying humanity's strategic analysis. The order was clear and absolute. Destroy the human homeworld within 24 hours. "Admiral, Navigator," Su said quietly, "the High Command's orders are explicit. We are to demonstrate Valthek power by eliminating their primary military installation first, then destroying their homeworld." Hyuk looked at the tactical display showing Earth and its surrounding space. Luna Base, humanity's largest military installation, orbited the planet like a small moon. It would be an easy target. "Very well," he said finally. "Begin the attack on Luna Base, but limit the destruction to military targets only." "Sir, the orders specify complete annihilation. Navigator Su, I have been conquering worlds for 800 years. I understand the difference between military necessity and wanton destruction. We will follow standard protocol." The attack began at dawn, on Luna Base's artificial time cycle. Valthek energy beams, capable of cracking moons, struck the human installation with precisely calculated force. The base's shields, powered by fusion reactors, lasted exactly 14 seconds before collapsing. In the command center deep within Luna Base, General Dong-Yun watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. "All personnel to evacuation stations. Execute Protocol 7. "Sir," called Communications Officer Yuna, "Protocol 7 hasn't been tested in real combat conditions. Then today we find out if our theories work in practice." Luna Base had been built as humanity's primary military installation, but in the past 72 hours it had been transformed into something else entirely. A testing ground for anti-Valthek tactics. As Valthek energy beams tore through the base's outer sections, hidden systems activated. Sonic emitters, designed based on Dr. Myung's frequency analysis, began broadcasting precisely tuned sound waves through the crystal-filled space around the base. On the Eternal Dominion, Tactical Officer Ki-hoon suddenly staggered. "Admiral, something is interfering with our crystal matrices. The humans are generating disruptive frequencies." "Impossible," Hayuk said. They lack the technology to affect our systems. But even as he spoke, he could feel the interference himself. The harmony that connected all Valthek through their shared crystal consciousness was being disrupted by harsh, discordant sounds. "Sir," Sue reported, "several of our escort vessels are reporting system malfunctions. The human base appears to be generating sonic weapons." Hyuk studied the tactical display with new respect. They actually did it. They found a way to weaponize sound against our crystal matrices. The destruction of Luna Base continued, but not as the Valtech had planned. Human forces evacuated in small, fast ships that moved in patterns the Valtech had never seen before. Instead of fleeing directly, they used the moon's gravity to sling themselves around in complex orbits, making them nearly impossible to target. "Admiral," Ki-hoon reported, "the human ships are not following any known tactical doctrine. They appear to be moving randomly." "No," Hayuk said, studying their movements more carefully. "Not randomly. They're using gravitational fields to create unpredictable flight paths. This is one of the strategies from their analysis." Captain Taiho of the UEF destroyer Soul Pride led the evacuation from Luna Base with grim determination. His ship was barely 1/100th the size of the smallest Valthek vessel, but it moved like a dancer while the alien ships lumbered like giants. "All ships execute pattern Delta," he commanded over the comm. "Use the debris field for cover and maintain evasive maneuvers." The human ships dove into the expanding cloud of wreckage from Luna Base, using the twisted metal and ceramic fragments to hide from Valthek sensors. They emerged at unexpected angles, fired brief bursts from their primitive kinetic weapons, then disappeared back into the debris before the aliens could respond. The weapons did no significant damage to the Valtech ships, but that wasn't the point. The point was to prove that humans could fight back, could adapt, could survive against impossible odds. Admiral Hayuk watched the evacuation with growing amazement. "They're not trying to win," he said to his officers. "They're trying to learn." "Learn what, Admiral?" Sue asked. "Learn how we fight, how we react, how we think." Hayuk paused. "They're treating this battle as an experiment." The realization was shocking. Every other species the Valthek had ever encountered fought desperately for survival. These humans were fighting scientifically, testing theories and gathering data even as their primary military base was destroyed. "Sir," Ki-hoon reported, "the last human ships have evacuated. Luna Base is completely destroyed." "Casualties?" "Minimal. They evacuated over 90% of their personnel before we could prevent it." Hyuk nodded slowly. The humans had lost their most important military installation, but they had also accomplished something remarkable. They had fought the Valtech Empire and survived. More importantly, they had wounded Valthek ships with primitive sonic weapons and proven that their tactical theories could work in practice. "Admiral," Sue said quietly, "what are your orders regarding the human homeworld?" Hayuk looked at Earth on the main display. The blue and green world continued to rotate peacefully, but he could see the signs of massive military preparation. Ships were moving to defensive positions. Ground-based weapons were powering up. The entire planet was preparing for war. "Open a channel to Earth," he ordered. Commander Yunji's image appeared on the screen. She stood on the bridge of a human warship, her uniform bearing the signs of recent combat. Behind her, he could see crew members working frantically at battle stations. "Admiral Hayuk," she said calmly, "I trust you found our defensive capabilities educational." "Indeed, Commander. Your people fought well. However, the destruction of Luna Base was merely a demonstration. The High Command has ordered the complete elimination of your species." "We understand," Yunji replied. "But we hope you also understand that we will not surrender without a fight. Your resistance is futile. You cannot hope to defeat the full might of the Valthek Empire." "Perhaps not," Yunji admitted. "But we can make victory cost you more than you expect. Every ship you send against us will face opponents who learn from every engagement. Every tactic you use will be analyzed and countered. We may not be able to defeat you, Admiral, but we can make you work for your victory." Hyuk studied her face on the screen. There was no fear there, no desperation, Only calm determination and the promise of a fight unlike any the Valthek had ever faced. "Commander," he said finally, "you have 24 hours to evacuate your civilians. After that, we will begin the bombardment of your homeworld." "Thank you for the warning, Admiral. We will use the time well." As the transmission ended, Hayek turned to his officers. "Prepare for orbital bombardment. But be ready for anything. These humans have already surprised us once today." Navigator Sue looked confused. "Admiral, surely you don't expect them to mount a significant defense with their primitive technology." Hyuk looked back at the tactical display showing Earth's defensive preparations. Human ships were moving in formations that seemed chaotic but probably followed some hidden pattern. Ground installations were powering up weapons that shouldn't be able to threaten Valthek vessels. "Sue," he said quietly, "I have learned something important today. These humans don't fight like any species we've encountered before. They don't fight to win. They fight to evolve." General Donghyun had been awake for 43 hours straight. Coffee stains marked his uniform and his eyes were red from staring at screens, but he had never been more focused in his life. Humanity had 72 hours to prove they deserved, to survive, and he intended to use every minute. The command center beneath the Himalayan mountains buzzed with activity. Scientists, military officers, diplomats, and engineers worked side by side in ways that would have been impossible just days before. The alien threat had done something that decades of politics could not. It had united humanity completely. "Dr. Nayan, what's your analysis of the alien physiology?" Dongyun asked. The xenobiologist looked up from her screens. "Their bodies are made of living crystal, General. Based on the scans from Commander Yunji's meeting, they appear to be immortal through some kind of rebirth process. When they die, their consciousness transfers to new crystal bodies." "Immortal?" Dongyun frowned. "That explains their confidence." "Yes, but it also suggests a weakness," Dr. Nayan continued. "Immortal beings don't develop the same survival instincts as mortals. They may be predictable because they've never truly faced extinction." Nearby, strategic analyst Kiwoo was studying video recordings of the alien ships. "General, look at their formations. They maintain the same patterns consistently. Their tactics haven't changed in centuries, possibly millennia." "What does that tell us?" "It tells us they've grown comfortable with winning. They use the same strategies because those strategies always work, but that makes them predictable." Dongyun nodded. "If they're predictable, they can be defeated. What else do we know?" Engineer Kangman approached with a tablet full of data. "General, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their ships. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it follows certain patterns. Their weapons, shields, and propulsion all seem to be based on the same underlying principles. Can we exploit that? Possibly. If their technology is integrated, damaging one system might affect others. But we'd need to find a way to disrupt their energy patterns first." Dr. Myung, the team's physicist, raised her hand. "General, I think I found something. The crystal formations on their ships emit specific frequencies. If we could generate opposing frequencies, we might be able to interfere with their systems. How long would it take to build such a weapon? With our current technology, years. But we might not need to build it. Sound waves travel through their crystal bodies. The right frequency could disrupt their consciousness transfers." Dongyun felt a spark of hope. "Interesting. What else?" For the next 18 hours, the team worked without rest. They analyzed every second of footage from the diplomatic meeting. They studied the aliens' body language, their ship movements, their communication patterns. Slowly, a picture emerged. The Valthek Empire was incredibly powerful, but they had grown rigid over millennia of easy conquest. They followed patterns, used the same tactics, and expected the same responses from their enemies. Most importantly, they had never faced an opponent who could learn and adapt faster than they could respond. "General," said strategic analyst Kiwoo, "I think we've found their weakness. Tell me." "They're not used to losing. In fact, based on their behavior patterns, I don't think they've ever lost a significant battle. That means they have no backup plans, no alternative strategies, and no experience with failure." So if we could win just one battle against them, it would be like nothing they've ever experienced. They wouldn't know how to respond. Dr. Nayan added, and their immortality means they've never developed the desperate creativity that comes from facing death. We have something they don't, the ability to think outside established patterns when survival is at stake. Dongyan began to see the shape of a strategy. What if we don't try to match their technology? What if we use our weaknesses as strengths? The team looked confused, so he continued. They expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. They expect us to use conventional tactics and superior firepower. But what if we don't? Engineer Kangman understood first. Asymmetric warfare. Use speed and unpredictability instead of strength. Exactly. They have massive ships that are incredibly powerful but probably not very maneuverable. We have small ships that are weak but fast and agile. Dr. Myung nodded excitedly. And if we can disrupt their crystal matrices with sonic weapons, we might be able to actually hurt them despite the technology gap. But General, Kiwoo warned, this would require perfect coordination across our entire military. One mistake and they'll adapt to our tactics. Then we don't make mistakes, Donghyun replied. We plan for every possibility and prepare for what they can't expect. The next 24 hours transformed human military doctrine completely. Every ship captain, every pilot, every soldier received new training in tactics that had never been used before. They learned to fight not like humans, but like something the aliens had never encountered. When Commander Yoonji returned to the asteroid belt for the second meeting, she brought something unprecedented, a complete strategic analysis of 17 different ways humanity could theoretically defeat the Valthek Empire. Admiral Hyuk materialized on the bridge of the New Horizon in a shower of crystal light. His diamond face showed no emotion, but his officers behind him seemed surprised by the human request for a private meeting. You have had your 72 hours, Hyuk said. What have you accomplished? We have accomplished what no other species in your empire has ever accomplished, Yoonji replied calmly. We have found ways to defeat you. For the first time since their initial meeting, Hyuk showed surprise. Defeat us? With your primitive technology? Admiral, may I present the collective work of our greatest military minds, scientists, and strategists. Yoonji handed him a crystal data pad containing humanity's analysis. Hyuk began reading, and his expression changed. His officers crowded around him, their crystal faces reflecting growing amazement. The document was incredibly detailed. It outlined human observations of Valthek tactics, weaknesses in their technology, and 17 complete battle plans for defeating a technologically superior enemy. This is comprehensive, Hyuk admitted. Your species has analyzed our capabilities with remarkable accuracy. We have had to, Yoonji said. You gave us 72 hours to prove our worth. We spent that time doing what humans do best, learning, adapting, and preparing. These tactical analyses are quite creative. I particularly find Scenario 7 fascinating, using gravitational fields to disrupt our formations, and Scenario 12, sonic weapons targeting our crystal matrices. How did you develop these concepts? Admiral, your species has had millions of years to perfect your technology, but you've also had millions of years to become predictable. Humanity's greatest advantage is not our weapons or our ships. It's our ability to see patterns that others miss and find solutions that others haven't considered. Hyuk studied the data pad for several more minutes. His officers whispered among themselves in their chiming language. Finally, he looked up at Yoonji. Commander, this analysis demonstrates strategic thinking far beyond what we expected from your species. However, theoretical knowledge and practical application are different things. Yes, they are, Yoonji agreed. Which is why we're prepared to demonstrate our capabilities if necessary. You would actually fight us, knowing you would lose? Admiral, every species you've conquered probably thought they would lose. The difference is that we've spent our time figuring out how to win anyway. Hyuk was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had changed slightly. For the first time, there was uncertainty in it. Commander Yoonji of Earth, in 800 years of conquest, no species has ever presented me with a strategic analysis of this quality. Your people have shown remarkable intelligence and creativity. Thank you, Admiral. However, intelligence and creativity are not enough to challenge the Valthek Empire. We have conquered 3,000 worlds. We have eliminated species far more advanced than yours. And in doing so, you've become predictable. You've forgotten what it's like to face an enemy who refuses to give up. Admiral Hayek studied her for another long moment. Then he did something that surprised everyone, including his own officers. He smiled. Very well, Commander. You have proven that humanity possesses strategic value, but the Valthek High Command may not see it that way. They view your analysis as proof that you must be eliminated before you become dangerous. And what do you view it as? I view it as the most interesting challenge I have faced in 8 centuries. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion hummed with the sound of living metal. Admiral Hyuk stood before the massive viewing screen, his crystalline body reflecting the light of 1,000 conquered stars. For 800 years he had watched worlds burn and civilizations kneel before the might of the Valthek Empire. His form was beautiful and terrible. Blue crystal grew from his shoulders like wings, and his face was carved from pure diamond. When he spoke, his voice rang like wind chimes in a storm. Behind him, dozens of Valthek officers worked at stations that grew from the ship's floor like crystal trees. Status report, Hyuk commanded. Navigator Sue stepped forward, her emerald form glowing softly. Admiral, we have completed the conquest of the Kepler system. The last Zoranian rebels have been eliminated. Their planet now serves as energy farm number 7412. Hyuk nodded. It was always the same. The Valthek fleet would arrive. The primitive aliens would either surrender or fight, and within days the system would be theirs. Some species begged for mercy. Others tried to run. A few actually fought back. None of it mattered. The Valthek had never lost a war. What is our next target? He asked. Sue touched her crystal console. The viewing screen filled with star charts. Long-range scouts have detected electromagnetic signals from system designation 7749 Alpha. Initial scans show a yellow star with 9 planets. The 3rd planet appears to be inhabited. What do we know about the inhabitants? They appear to be bipedal, carbon-based life forms. They call themselves humans, according to their radio transmissions. Primitive technology. No faster than light. Travel. No energy weapons. They are still using chemical rockets and nuclear fission. Hyuk almost smiled. Almost. The Valthek had stopped showing emotion centuries ago. How primitive are we talking? They have only just begun to explore their own star system. Their most advanced outposts are on their moon and the 4th planet. They appear to be in the early stages of planetary unification. That was interesting. Most species fractured when they first learned about the galaxy. Fear and panic usually broke them into warring factions long before they could mount any real defense. These humans seem to be doing the opposite. Show me their world, Hayek ordered. The screen changed to show a blue and green planet covered in lights. Thousands of cities glowed across the night side of the world. Orbital stations dotted the space around the planet like jewels. Curious, Hayek said. They have achieved global unity before achieving interstellar flight. Most species require at least 500 years of galactic contact to reach this level of cooperation. Shall I order the standard 3-day conquest protocol? Asked his tactical officer. Ki-hoon Hyuk studied the planet for a long moment. Something about these humans felt different. Their world showed signs of incredible organization. Their cities were connected by vast networks of transportation. Their orbital installations were positioned with military precision. No, he said, finally. I want to observe them first. Move the fleet to the edge of their system. Let them know we are here. See how they react. Sue looked surprised. Admiral, we have never delayed a conquest before. These humans have unified their entire world without outside pressure. That suggests unusual intelligence. I want to understand what kind of enemy we are facing before we attack. Enemy? Ki-hoon asked. Admiral, they have no weapons that could threaten us. Their strongest warships could not damage our smallest escort vessel. Hayek turned to face his officers. His diamond face reflected the bridge lights like a prism. In 800 years of conquest, I have learned that the most dangerous enemies are not always the strongest ones. Sometimes they are the smartest ones. The Eternal Dominion and its escort fleet moved toward the human system. The ships were things of beauty and terror. Each one was grown rather than built, shaped from living metal that could repair any damage. In minutes, their weapons could tear holes in space itself. Their shields could turn aside the energy of entire stars. As they approached the outer planets, human detection systems began to notice them. Radio signals filled with excitement and fear bounced between Earth and its colonies. The humans knew something was coming. "They have detected us," Sue reported. "Their primitive sensors are tracking our approach. They are sending signals to all their outposts." "Good," Hyuk said. "Now let us see how they respond to our presence." The human reaction was immediate and unexpected. Instead of panic, the radio traffic became more organized. Military frequencies activated across their system. Ships began moving toward defensive positions. Most surprising of all, the humans seemed to be working together. "Admiral," Ki-hoon said, "they are not fragmenting. Usually species break apart when they first detect us. These humans are becoming more unified." Hyuk watched the tactical display with growing interest. Human ships were tiny compared to Valtech vessels, but they moved with purpose. Space stations went to alert status. Military units on the planet below prepared for action. "They are treating us as a military threat," he observed. "Most species either worship us as gods or dismiss us as natural phenomena. These humans immediately assumed we are hostile and began preparing defenses. Their defenses cannot stop us," Sue pointed out. "No, but their response tells us something important about their nature. They do not give up easily." Days passed as the Valtech fleet approached the inner system. The humans continued their preparations. They moved civilian populations away from likely targets. They positioned their small fleet to protect their homeworld. They even sent diplomatic signals offering to negotiate. "They want to talk," Sue reported. "They are requesting peaceful contact." Hyuk considered this. In 800 years, only 3 species had ever asked to negotiate before fighting. All 3 had possessed technology nearly equal to the Valtech. These humans had technology that was laughably primitive, yet they still believed they could negotiate. "Very well," he said. "We will speak with them. But first, move the fleet into attack formation around their homeworld. Let them see our strength." The Valtech ships took position around Earth like a cage of crystal and metal. Each vessel was larger than a human city. Their weapons could destroy continents. Their shields glowed with the power of captured stars. From Earth came a transmission. A human female spoke in their primitive language, which Valtech computers translated instantly. "This is Commander Yunji of the United Earth Federation. We welcome you to our system and request peaceful dialogue." Hyuk almost laughed. The human spoke as if she represented a power equal to the Valtech Empire, as if her tiny ships and primitive weapons could somehow threaten the conquerors of 3,000 worlds. But something in her voice gave him pause. There was no fear there, no desperation, just calm determination and carefully controlled strength. For the first time in 800 years, Admiral Hyuk felt curious about an enemy. These humans were not acting like any species he had conquered before. They were not begging or threatening or trying to run. They were preparing to fight a war they could not possibly win. That meant either they were incredibly stupid or they knew something he did not. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion hummed with the sound of living metal. Admiral Hyuk stood before the massive viewing screen, his crystalline body reflecting the light of 1,000 conquered stars. For 800 years, he had watched worlds burn and civilizations kneel before the might of the Valtech Empire. His form was beautiful and terrible. Blue crystal grew from his shoulders like wings, and his face was carved from pure diamond. When he spoke, his voice rang like wind chimes. In a storm, behind him, dozens of Valtech officers worked at stations that grew from the ship's floor like crystal trees. "Status report," Hyuk commanded. Navigator Sue stepped forward, her emerald form glowing softly. "Admiral, we have completed the conquest of the Kepler system. The last Zoranian rebels have been eliminated. Their planet now serves as energy farm number 7412. Hyuk nodded. It was always the same. The Valthek fleet would arrive. The primitive aliens would either surrender or fight, and within days the system would be theirs. Some species begged for mercy. Others tried to run. A few actually fought back. None of it mattered. The Valthek had never lost a war. "What is our next target?" he asked. Sue touched her crystal console. The viewing screen filled with star charts. Long-range scouts have detected electromagnetic signals from system designation 7749 Alpha. Initial scans show a yellow star with 9 planets. The third planet appears to be inhabited. What do we know about the inhabitants? They appear to be bipedal carbon-based life forms. They call themselves humans, according to their radio transmissions. Primitive technology. No faster than light. Travel. No energy weapons. They are still using chemical rockets and nuclear fission. Hyuk almost smiled. Almost. The Valthek had stopped showing emotion centuries ago. How primitive are we talking? They have only just begun to explore their own star system. Their most advanced outposts are on their moon and the 4th planet. They appear to be in the early stages of planetary unification. That was interesting. Most species fractured when they first learned about the galaxy. Fear and panic usually broke them into warring factions long before they could mount any real defense. These humans seem to be doing the opposite. "Show me their world," Hyuk ordered. The screen changed to show a blue and green planet covered in lights. Thousands of cities glowed across the night side of the world. Orbital stations dotted the space around the planet like jewels. "Curious," Hyuk said. "They have achieved global unity before achieving interstellar flight. Most species require at least 500 years of galactic contact to reach this level of cooperation." "Shall I order the standard 3-day conquest protocol?" asked his tactical officer. Ki-hoon Hyuk studied the planet for a long moment. Something about these humans felt different. Their world showed signs of incredible organization. Their cities were connected by vast networks of transportation. Their orbital installations were positioned with military precision. "No," he said, finally. "I want to observe them first. Move the fleet to the edge of their system. Let them know we are here. See how they react." Sue looked surprised. "Admiral, we have never delayed a conquest before. These humans have unified their entire world without outside pressure. That suggests unusual intelligence. I want to understand what kind of enemy we are facing before we attack." "Enemy?" Ki-hoon asked. "Admiral, they have no weapons that could threaten us. Their strongest warships could not damage our smallest escort vessel." Hyuk turned to face his officers. His diamond face reflected the bridge lights like a prism. "In 800 years of conquest, I have learned that the most dangerous enemies are not always the strongest ones. Sometimes they are the smartest ones." The Eternal Dominion and its escort fleet moved toward the human system. The ships were things of beauty and terror. Each one was grown rather than built, shaped from living metal that could repair any damage in minutes. Their weapons could tear holes in space itself. Their shields could turn aside the energy of entire stars. As they approached the outer planets, human detection systems began to notice them. Radio signals filled with excitement and fear bounced between Earth and its colonies. The humans knew something was coming. "They have detected us," Sue reported. "Their primitive sensors are tracking our approach. They are sending signals to all their outposts." "Good," Hyuk said. "Now let us see how they respond to our presence." The human reaction was immediate and unexpected. Instead of panic, the radio traffic became more organized. Military frequencies activated across their system. Ships began moving toward defensive positions. Most surprising of all, the humans seemed to be working together. "Admiral," Ki-hoon said, "they are not fragmenting. Usually species break apart when they first detect us. These humans are becoming more unified." Hyuk watched the tactical display with growing interest. Human ships were tiny compared to Valthek vessels, but they moved with purpose. Space stations went to alert status. Military units on the planet below prepared for action. "They are treating us as a military threat," he, observed. Most species either worship us as gods or dismiss us as natural phenomena. These humans immediately assumed we are hostile and began preparing defenses. Their defenses cannot stop us, Sue pointed out. No, but their response tells us something important about their nature. They do not give up easily. Days passed as the Valthek fleet approached the inner system. The humans continued their preparations. They moved civilian populations away from likely targets. They positioned their small fleet to protect their homeworld. They even sent diplomatic signals offering to negotiate. They want to talk, Sue reported. They are requesting peaceful contact. Yuck considered this. In 800 years, only 3 species had ever asked to negotiate before fighting. All 3 had possessed technology nearly equal to the Valthek. These humans had technology that was laughably primitive, yet they still believed they could negotiate. Very well, he said. We will speak with them. But first, move the fleet into attack formation around their homeworld. Let them see our strength. The Valthek ships took position around Earth like a cage of crystal and metal. Each vessel was larger than a human city. Their weapons could destroy continents. Their shields glowed with the power of captured stars. From Earth came a transmission. A human female spoke in their primitive language, which Valthek computers translated instantly. This is Commander Yunji of the United Earth Federation. We welcome you to our system and request peaceful dialogue. Hayuk almost laughed. The human spoke as if she represented a power equal to the Valthek Empire, as if her tiny ships and primitive weapons could somehow threaten the conquerors of 3,000 worlds. But something in her voice gave him pause. There was no fear there, no desperation, just calm determination and carefully controlled strength. For the first time in 800 years, Admiral Hyuk felt curious about an enemy. These humans were not acting like any species he had conquered before. They were not begging or threatening or trying to run. They were preparing to fight a war they could not possibly win. That meant either they were incredibly stupid or they knew something he did not.